So now you have seen how computers can communicate from one client to a server using a bunch of different routers in the way, and that creates the internet. Now the question becomes, well, the internet is not really a reliable place to send your data to. For example, if you are sending a payment request to your bank or to a service provider, what do you do in case one of the routers in between, like you and your bank, comes down and your request is lost? That would be a shame. Or what do you do if there actually are multiple routers and your request is fragmented and one thing comes before the next and your request comes like in a different order that you send it? That can be a problem. So in order to solve this problem, people created what's called TCP, or the Transmission Control Protocol. And the idea of TCP is that it provides you a reliable way to send data, and it makes sure that all the data comes to the server and back. Make sure that it comes on like the correct order, and you make sure the server has received it, because the server is going to send an acknowledgement. So the idea of TCP is that you send data, and the server receives data, and is going to send you back an acknowledgement, or sometimes called an ACK. If you receive the ACK, then everything's fine. The server has received your packet. If you don't receive the ACK, you go back to number one and you send the data again until the server sends you back an acknowledgement. If the server receives data and the data is not in the proper order, because all of these packets are numbered, you have an ID. If the data receives things and it's not in proper order, it keeps it in memory until it can reassemble them into a properly ordered stream. And this is only when we talk about TCP that you can have a notion of connection. Before that, you are not really connected to anything. You are just sending data on the web and on the internet using IP address. You have no idea if it arrives at destination, no clue. But when we talk about TCP, you are actually connected to a server. And this is also at this point where the port number comes in, because the server is actually listening for a lot of things that comes to it. And you can have like a lot of services. You can have a web server, you can have an email, and etc. And how does the server know that some packet is meant for the email server and another is meant for the web server? The idea is that in the TCP packet, you have the port number. So for example, web server would be port number 80, email would be port number 25, or SSH would be port number 22, or FTP port number 21, etc., etc. And the port is always an integer, or if you want to know, it's a unsigned integer. And this integer means on what port you are going to send a request and on which port the server is going to listen to the request. So this is very important for TCP, and note that there are other protocols that do not implement all this acknowledgement and making sure that things arrive in the proper order, but still implements port numbers such as UDP, which can be really interesting when you have stuff like losing some packet isn't really important. For example, voice over IP. If you lose like a millisecond of voice for a phone call, it doesn't really matter. But sending back an acknowledgement really adds a lot of overhead, and it can be a bit troublesome. So UDP can have also a lot of interesting applications. So what you have to remember is that people implemented the TCP protocol in order to make sure like all data arrives to the server and you know that the server has received your data. And it's only when we talk about TCP or UDP or stuff at the level 4 of the OSC model that you have port numbers and that you have a notion of connection only for TCP.